Hi everybody, welcome back. So, if you are completing this lesson from home, then the date that you can see up here will not be the date that you are doing this lesson. So I know that's a little bit confusing. So children in school will be doing this lesson on a slightly different day from you. So what I'd like you to do is pause the video now, write the correct date, today's date, and then your learning objective. And when you're ready, unpause the video and we will get on with the lesson. Okay, so well done for doing that. As you can see from our learning objective today, we are going to be understanding and learning how to use apostrophes. Now, apostrophes are pesky little punctuation marks, and lots and lots of grown-ups even, and children older than you, so children in year 5, 6, 7, even in high school, lots of children and lots of grown-ups often get this wrong. So if you can master using apostrophes, then you are going to be so brainy. There are a few simple rules that will help you always to get your apostrophe in the correct place. And we're going to learn one new rule every day this week. So today we are just going to be focusing on contractions. Contractions, and I'll explain what that means if you're not sure. So an apostrophe is this little punctuation mark here. It looks like a comma that kind of floats around in the air. Now, these are contractions. Contractions are when we take two words and we kind of smush them together into one word. And we often do that because it's quicker. So you can see here, I've got the sentence, I'll be there. So my friend might invite me to the cinema on Saturday and I will say, I'll be there. It's much quicker than saying, I will be there. And it's quicker to write as well. So it's quite a casual thing to do. We would do it when we're using our informal language, when we're sort of speaking to friends and so on. So this is called a contraction, because when something contracts, it gets smaller. So we've got started out with two words, I will, and then we've kind of contracted. We've made it smaller into one word so we can speak and write more quickly. That's what a contraction is. Now, there is a golden rule that I will bang on about all of this week in our work on apostrophes. And I'm going to move my face out of the way so you can see, look. The golden rule is never, ever, not even once, use an apostrophe for a plural. A plural is when I've got more than one of something. So, for example, I might have one cat, that's a singular, and two cats. So I've added an S to form a plural. Now, whenever I form a plural, whenever I've got more than one of something, I never, ever, 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 ever have an apostrophe. It's just a golden rule. And lots of grown-ups get that golden rule wrong. And lots of older children get that golden rule wrong. So you will start to notice this. Now I've told you, you will start to notice when people make mistakes by adding an apostrophe in a plural. So that's something we're going to avoid all week, okay? And it just makes me cry. Make me cry. Okay? So, let's get on to the main part of the lesson. Firstly, we've already talked about this a little bit. We're going to talk about contractions. Let me move my face down here. So, I have got something behind this blue box and I want you to have a look. It says, what is a contraction? And I want you to try, and you don't have to write this down. I just want you to think. If you can think, you can go back in the video if you want. What do you think? What words are hidden behind that blue box? What is a contraction? Okay, I'm going to reveal the answer now. Are you ready? A contraction is where you take two words and sort of smush them together. That's not the technical term. You contract them. That's what we should say. But you kind of smush them together into one word. And we take out some letters. So, for example, here I've got did not, and that becomes didn't. And that's what we call a contraction. And we do this, when we do this, we leave an apostrophe. And that shows where the missing letters used to be. before we took them out, okay? So we take some letters out, we smush the two words together, and we use our apostrophe to show where the missing letters used to be. Okay, why do we use contractions? I've already spoken about this as well. See if you can remember, why do we use contractions in our speaking and in our writing? What do you think's behind the blue box? Okay, we use contractions because they are quicker to say and they help us to avoid repetition. So instead of saying, Mrs. Thompson did not like exercise, but she could not give up chocolate, we might say, Mrs. Thompson didn't like exercise, but she couldn't give up chocolate. So we've taken our did not here and we've changed it into didn't because that's quicker. And we've taken our could not and we've changed that into couldn't because that's quicker too. So we're going to have a little practice and I'm going to show you how. And these ones you can kind of practice on a bit of scrap paper or on a whiteboard if you have one. And then I'm going to give you some questions to do on your own in your home learning book. So let's have a little practice. I'll show you how to do it. So let me move my face again, look. Keep getting in the way. So I'm going to show you over here and then I'm going to give you an example behind the blue box that I want you to do on your own. So I'm going to start with the words did not. So you can see here that I've got my two words and firstly I'm going to smush them together into one. Did not. Does that make sense? No, I need to get rid of a letter. So I'm going to get rid of my O and oh, that's starting to look better, isn't it? But I'm not finished because I need to use an apostrophe to show where my missing letter used to be. So I started with did not, like this, did not, and then I smushed them together, got rid of a letter and added apostrophe, didn't. Okay? Now you have a go at this one, cannot. You can pause the video if you want and I'll tell you the answer in a sec. Okay, so what you should have done for that question was you should have smushed them together. We've actually got rid of two letters here. We've got rid of the N, an N and an O. So you should have ended up with can't. For some reason, my little c turned into a capital C there. I don't know why that is, but never mind. Okay, let's try another one. So, my turn. I'm going to take could not. And firstly, I'm going to smush it together into one word. And then I'm going to get rid of a letter. And I'm going to replace it with an apostrophe. So I started with could not. And now I've got couldn't. Are you ready to have a go? Would not. You can pause the video if you like, and then I'll tell you the answer. Okay, so what you should have done for that one, you should have gone, smush it together into one, get rid of a letter, wouldn't, wouldn't. Okay, let's try one more, and then I'm going to give you some questions to do on your own. So, this one looks slightly different. I've started with he will. Now, if I was speaking really quickly, I could say he will buy a book and he will read it and he will enjoy it. But it would be quicker to say he will buy a book and he'll read it and he'll enjoy it. So what I'm going to do, same thing again, I'm going to smush it together into one. And this time I'm not getting rid of one letter, I'm getting rid of two letters. So I would do that. I've got rid of my W and my I, and I've put an apostrophe in there. Okay, you have a go. Are you ready? She will. So pause the video, and then I'll show you the answer in a sec. Okay, so for that one, what you should have done, same thing again. Smush the two words together, get rid of those letters there. Again, that was one where you got rid of two letters. Am I finished yet? No, because I need to put my apostrophe in. So that's what you're going to be practicing today. Now, I'm going to give you some independent questions and I'm going to talk you through. This time, I'm going to mix it up a little bit because I have already given you contractions here. And what I want you to do is I want you to unsmush them. I want you to separate them out into two different words. So these are quite tricky ones. Okay, so this is the contracted version. This is the version where it has already been smushed into one word. I want you to unsmush it and separate it out into two words. So you might have a few ideas popping in your head now of what the answers to these questions are. So if you want to, you can pause the video and I will give you the answers in a second. You are going to separate them out into two words again. Okay, so you should now have the answers. And I am going to show you. Here we are, look. So, question 1, you should have started with mightn't. That's a really hard one, actually. That's quite an old-fashioned way of speaking. Mightn't. Okay, that would start as might not. Whose, who is. So we might say, whose badge is that? Okay, or who's looking. Oh no, that was a bad example, actually. Let me think of a different one. We might say, who's looking through the window? Okay, or who's done their home, who's doing their homework? That's a better example. Now, I'd, there was two possible answers here. You could say I'd, that would be I had. So you might say, I'd eaten 10 donuts before dinner. I had eaten 10 donuts before dinner. Or it could be I would. Okay, so you might say, I would buy a Ferrari if I won the lottery. Other supercars are available. I would buy a Ferrari, or I'd buy a Ferrari. Who're, that's a funny one. Who are you? Okay, you might say, who are you? And this last one was really quite a tricky one. So if you manage to get this one, you're doing ever so well. So, oughtn't. This is very old-fashioned. It means shouldn't, basically. It's a very old-fashioned way of saying shouldn't. And the expanded form, and I'm really, really impressed if you manage to get this one, is ought not. So this is the kind of thing, my granny actually says this quite a lot. And she, as you might expect, is a slightly older lady. And she says things like, you ought not to eat 10 donuts before your dinner because it will spoil your appetite. It means you shouldn't. You ought not to. Okay, so if you manage to get some of these, you are doing ever so well because this is quite a new thing. We've never learned this before in year 4. So what I'd like you to do, if you're doing this lesson from home, is to give yourself either a smiley face, like we do in class, and in the middle face, or a really unhappy face. And it's okay if you give yourself an unhappy face because that means we can help you a little bit more. Or it might mean that actually, you're not sure yet, but, once you've had a bit more practice and you've had a little bit of help, you can do it a bit more on your own. Now, if you got the questions, the first questions, the one that we did together, if you got some of those right, but then when you got to the questions on your own, that was a bit tricky, that's okay. Okay, that's a good thing. That means you're doing really, really well. And I would give yourself an in the middle face. This one is just for if you're sitting there thinking, Mrs. Thompson, you are speaking Japanese. What are you talking about, you crazy lady? Then maybe give yourself a sad face. But that's okay. You don't need to worry. It's the first time we've done it. So really hope that you managed to get a few of those answers right today. And I look forward to seeing you for our next spag lesson tomorrow. A different rule all about apostrophes. Thanks. Bye.